If you're heading to Agri-Scot on the 19th of November, join us for a live episode recording with SAYFC. Starting at 9 a.m. in Seminar Room 2, I'll be joined by Katrina Gemmell and Jack Young to record an episode on what young farmers has meant for their well-being, how Katrina filled that void when it was time to move on, and maybe a few tales from those legendary young farmers' dances. Pop along to be part of the blether. That's Agri-Scot, 9 a.m, Seminar Room 2. Now, on with the show. Welcome to Blether Together, brought to you by Farmstrong Scotland. I'm your host, Sarah Stephen, and together we'll be travelling across Scotland to chat to farmers and crofters to learn more about them, their businesses, challenges, and the positive steps they take to manage their well-being. Our thanks go to NFU Mutual Charitable Trust for supporting the podcast series, and to our founding funders, Movember and the Royal Highland Agricultural Society of Scotland. In our podcast today, we find out what F1 motorsport and farming have in common. Isla Mackenzie grew up on the Isle of Lewis, and whilst driving tractors and quad bikes were her thing, they just were not fast enough for her. Learning lots from farming life, Isla was determined and focused, and in 2017 secured her first job in Formula One with Williams. She then moved to Mercedes high-performance powertrains, where she tested and developed the Formula One power units before moving to the main Mercedes Formula One team in Brackley. So if you wonder who is testing the cars and kits before they take to the track, it could well be Isla. In our blether today, we will find out more about her career in motorsport, including her own journey to get behind the wheel and race, and how a simple writing exercise at the end of each day keeps her on track. Isla Mackenzie, welcome to the Farmstrong podcast. It's lovely to have you with us today.
Thank you.
A couple of firsts. You're the first female on the podcast, and you're also the first racing driver to be with us on the podcast. So that's quite a thing for us. So welcome.
Thank you. That's amazing. I didn't even realise I was the first female, so that's cool.
You look wonderfully sunny and summery today. Are you at home?
I'm not. So I'm usually based near Brackley, but I'm actually on a little holiday with my mum. It's the Formula One summer shutdown, so we've come to Wales. So I'm on the Isle of Anglesey for a little holiday.
Well, I'm looking at what you're wearing and what I'm wearing and feeling very down at heel.
Yeah, it's actually sunny here. It was rainy when we arrived, but thank God it's nice and sunny now.
Well, you've got a big smile on your face, so you must be getting a good rest and being well rested on holiday. So Isla, where do we start? There's so much I want to talk to you about, and you've achieved so much in a very short period of time. But I've been to the Outer Hebrides a couple of times, and it's a beautiful part of the world. It's stunning, but it's also very sedate, quite a quiet pace of life. So I'm wondering, where does the need for speed come out of that sort of upbringing?
Yeah, so I grew up just outside Stornoway on a dairy farm. It was called Gotill Farm. And that was kind of through the generations. So my dad was a farmer, my grandpa was a farmer, and my great-grandfather was a farmer. So I come from a long line of farmers. And yeah, I did have quite a sedate upbringing, but it was amazing. I couldn't have asked for anything better. It's not like we had a lot of money or anything, but it was a very safe area. I grew up literally outside all the time, like out with the cows, because it was a dairy farm. We also had collie dogs, gun dogs, and quads and all sorts of things. So it's quite an outdoors upbringing, but yeah, it was great.
Where did this sort of love and this drive, excuse the metaphor, the drive to succeed come from?
I was quite into the farming and into kind of tinkering with things and helping my grandpa. And he always encouraged me to go and do that. It didn't really matter that I was a female. And I think I was driving like a proper manual pickup. I've been driving for quite a while. And then even as soon as I was big enough, they had a little quad for me that I used to zoom around with on the farm. And then I went on a proper sized one when I was big enough. So I think that definitely sparked the love of driving. And I guess to succeed, I think you really have to be quite resilient and hardy and hardworking, kind of growing up on the island, especially in farming. And I guess I probably got that from my family and people around me.
It is a very traditional environment, the Outer Hebrides, and it's quite a traditional culture as well, isn't it? And I just wonder what the expectations were for you.
I think traditionally a lot of the people in my family or people I was in school with, the traditional route would be if you wanted to go into a kind of trade, there's trades on the island like carpenters or joiners, or you go offshore, you go off to the North Sea and you spend half your time away. Or traditionally, if you were a female, the route you'd be kind of pushed into would be, nursing or working at shops at home, which is all great, but it just didn't feel like the route that I wanted to go along. And even, I'm sure we'll get onto it, but when I tried engineering at college at home, I was the only female in the class. So even that kind of felt a bit like going against the grain. And there was plenty of people kind of telling me it wasn't the right route to go. So hopefully I kind of carved a bit of a path there, but it is quite traditional.
So talk us through that conversation. Was there even a conversation when you were around the kitchen table and said, actually, this is what I want to do?
So I didn't initially follow what I wanted. And in my final year of school, when everybody was kind of being encouraged to go to university, which is a good thing. They always encourage like the islanders to go away, go to Glasgow, go to Edinburgh, go study and try life away, even if you come back. And I loved cars and mechanics, and I wasn't really encouraged around me to do that. And I also loved animals. So I ended up doing zoology, and I actually went off to Aberdeen, and I think I lasted 3 months. And then I was like, no, this is completely again, like it just didn't feel right. So that's when I had the conversation and said, no, I'm going to try engineering. My brother did that. So I came home, and then in the following year, I enrolled in the local college to do engineering.
I mean, it's a brave move, at that age to go against the flow of what all your peers are doing.
Yeah, literally all of my friends went off to do similar subjects, and I was the only one. Thank God for my brother and like my grandpa and everyone, because they were saying, "Why didn't you do that in the first place?" But they encouraged me, and my brother was a few years ahead of me, so it was nice that he had kind of done that.
As a parent who is currently advising similar age, university age children, we know nothing. They know it all.
Yeah.
And we know, Mum, you don't know what we're talking about. No, I have experienced this before. Do what you love. That's the most important thing at the end of the day. So, that's a big step. And also to come back to the islands and study, come home and sort of
Yeah.
admit, okay, that didn't work out. I'm moving in this direction now. That takes a lot of inner confidence. Is that something you've always had?
No, but I just had to grow it along the way. I remember my first day at college. I was the only girl in the class, and growing up on the island, you usually know everybody, but there was a lot of people older than me there, and there was one person who was in my year at school that I kind of recognized, and we kind of gravitated towards each other, and he ended up being my good friends. But I did go home after my first day and say, I don't know if I can do this, and that's where family kind of pushed me along to keep going on it.
So when other young teenagers have sort of pin-ups on the wall, boy bands, and was your sort of a Mercedes car? Was it of a what was on your wall growing up?
Weirdly, it wasn't. It was probably, I did really love the animals, and a lot of it was animals, but I did love people like Susie Wolff, who was Scottish and kind of trailblazing her own way in motorsport.
Wonderful role
But
model for you.
yeah, but it just felt so far away. I couldn't really comprehend doing anything like that myself.
And I suppose being where you were geographically and thinking of where you would have to be, it did seem probably a long way off, very out of reach.
Yeah, so where I am right now, I would say the majority of the people I work with knew somebody in Formula One or knew a family friend who worked in Formula One. I didn't even know anyone in England, never mind in the industry. I literally knew nobody. So it really did feel like just a pipe dream that was never going to happen.
I certainly don't want to dismiss the education and what it took to get you sort of into engineering, obviously at university, but you get a degree. What were you doing through university to try and further that career? What was going on behind the scenes? I mean, most students are, 11 hours a week and partying hard. Tell me of the
Yeah.
Isla at university.
So again, I'm probably a bit odd or not traditional. I took my little dog with me to university. Love the animals, and obviously coming from a farm, my parents were like, that's fine. So I did a year at the college at home, and then I realized that you could study motorsport engineering. So I went and moved to Hamilton, which is just outside Glasgow, and I joined the second year there, and I did 3 years motorsport engineering there. And I did party a little bit, obviously, but I look back now and I realise how driven I was without realising it. I was marshalling at Scottish Rally Championships, so going all around Scotland and just even if it was making teas or filling out time cards or whatever, just to kind of mingle and bulk up my CV. I emailed all the performance garages in and around Glasgow and offered to help for free. So I did a lot of volunteering. And I also actually started my own little engine tuning business when I was in Glasgow too. And I bought all the kit, and I think I even got a little business grant and bought all the stuff and did that as well. So alongside the studies, I had so much else going on to just try and meet people because I didn't know anyone in the industry, and try to get as much mechanical experience as possible.
So at what age would you have been? So 21, 22?
So I moved away at 19. So I think 18, 19 was my first year in college. And then, yeah, 19, 20, 21, 22, I think would have been outside Glasgow.
So you were just putting in all this groundwork while you're at university because it was the end goal always to sit in that hot seat.
I would say around 19, 20, the dream was like I had so much fire in my belly to be a racing driver. I even bought a car, like a shell of a car, and I was hoping to build it. And I was naive, definitely naive then to the costs of it all. There was a lot I did not know then, and I just realized I didn't have the money. So I thought, well, I need a job, so I'll just put in all the energy into at least trying to work in motorsport and go from there. Definitely the dream to be a driver was there, but I just didn't know where I would end up actually working.
Ignorance is bliss sometimes. I was looking through your notes and I just looking at some of the other Formula One stories of people who have succeeded. And, often it comes down to, a lot of cold, hard cash
Yeah.
backing them. And yeah, but there's determination there as well. And a lot of these drivers come from a background where they've been not only encouraged massively, but they have a huge amount of financial support. So that must have been a huge challenge for you as well.
Yeah, it really was. And that's why I kind of parked that dream back then. And it was only about 2 or 3 years ago that I picked up the dream again to drive myself. And even as I sit here now, the financial side is still a huge barrier. But I'm a bit wiser now and know I'm not letting the stress of that take over the fun of it. I'm doing it because I want to, if you know what I mean. So I'm not as bothered about the money side, although it is a huge barrier.
How have you been received? A woman wanting to do what you want to do. What sort of reception have you received generally? If you can sort of, outline along the way, how have you been received in the sport?
Think in general, not too bad because I am quite hardy and I can stand up for myself. There have been quite tough times. I think when I advise other women who approach me, I would be fibbing to say it's all amazing and there's no issues and it's, modern day and everything's fine, because that's a lie. I'm lucky at the team I'm in right now as an engineer. I'm treated very well and I'm treated like as any other person, but it is still so male dominated and you stand out immediately, whether it's good or bad. Like when I was karting, I was usually the only woman on the grid. College, only woman in the class. In uni, there was only two of us. First job at Williams, I was the first woman to ever work in that department. I was the only one for that 4 year period. But in general, it's not been too bad.
That perhaps sows the seed of determination to say, actually, I'll show you, I will be there and I'll get there.
Yeah, and I think it's so funny now. I've been nearly working in F1 for nearly 8 years now, and now I know I've got the experience and the knowledge. So I'm very confident now to say, well, actually, I'm very good at my job, or I know what I'm talking about. But it is tricky when you're learning and you're entry level role or you're trying to gain experience. That is a tricky place to be when you're a minority.
You touched upon it earlier, your upbringing, growing up in a croft in the Outer Hebrides, quite a tough life at times.
Yeah.
1 month of the year it might be fairly balmy. The other 11 months is pretty wild. I'm not from a
Yeah.
farming background, but what I learn often when I meet farmers and farming and next generation is that there's no mollycoddling. You've got to get out there,
Yes.
you've got to get up, you've got to get on with the job. And how much do you think that's helped you and your attitude and approach to just seeing an obstacle and saying, right, I'll just get on with it? Because there's no sort of fluffing in farming.
Yeah, 100%. I think that definitely helps give you the attitude that some days might be tough, but you've got to do it. Like when you were saying that, it just gave me a flashback of if any of us, we all had to go at the milk run, which is 3, 4 a.m. starts. And if you dared sleep in, or my brother was hungover or something, my grandpa would literally be in the house, get you out of bed, get on with it. So there was no fluffing or anything. It was like, you've got a job, we've all got a job to do. And that's definitely helped me further along the line. Don't
I can
mind a bit of
imagine it
hard
has.
work.
Well, it definitely comes across that way. You're chasing your dream, you're trying to live life in the fast lane, literally. You're coming across today very sort of optimistic and upbeat, but there must have been hard times, and you've touched on that. I understand on your helmet you've got the motto, just keep going. Is that still the case?
Yeah, yes, 100%. I think that's something I literally will mouth to myself so many times.
Have there been lows, and how have you dealt with those lows?
Yeah, I think had quite a few massive lows, to be honest, in trying to pursue my own racing in my life in general and also at work too. You know, I have had a few instances I wouldn't be able to go into, but that haven't been treated very fairly. As you kind of go along, you realize there are kind of little escapes or ways to kind of cope with that. So one of the things, like for example, right now we have the summer shutdown, and it's mandatory for all teams to shut down for 2 weeks every August. And they've now introduced a winter shutdown too. And I know that's not possible in all roles, but I think it's really important to just completely disconnect. If you can, that means like literally not even looking at anything to do with your day to day. So we're not allowed to look at emails, literally nothing work related will cross my mind for the next 2 weeks. Huge help for your mental health.
You haven't spoken about a couple of lows, but you've mentioned a couple of lows, and I appreciate you might not want to expand on them, but can you just maybe share the sort of mechanisms, the techniques that you've employed to tackle them and sort of go to bed and wake up the next day and say, right, today's another day, I've got to get on with it and be as,
Yeah.
determined as I was yesterday. I mean, it's easy to say
Yeah.
that, isn't it? But
It is so easy to say. I think as I've gotten a bit older, I do try and respect the basics just for my overall well-being. Like genuinely try to get 7 to 8 hours sleep a night. I try to eat well. I think I found during our busy periods at work, I'm sure anybody in a busy job will find this, you can literally skip breakfast or skip lunch or whatever every day and eat late. So I tried to really get the basics right, but also just things like trying to get out and do something a bit different. It was for charity through work, but I tried my hand at football recently and I'm rubbish, but it was so good because it was completely out of motorsport, met new people, met girls at work that I didn't know were even there. It was outside, it was exercise, and it was just a bit of a laugh. So I think it's good. People always say to try and find a hobby separate to what you love doing or the industry you're in. And I found that, yeah, football was pretty good to kind of try something new.
it's interesting you talk about other females at work, and I'm sure they're few and far between. And I used to work in an environment that was quite competitive among women because you were all trying to do the same job. And I
Yeah.
remember, people used to talk about the sisterhood, and I was going, I've got no idea, the sisterhood. Not, it doesn't exist
Yeah.
in some environments. And I just wonder, we always talk about trying to support each other and getting further up the ladder. And I just wonder what your experience is of other women within the sport.
For example, I remember it was about 2 years ago. They do networking events at Mercedes, which are great for women. And I went and I felt quite anxious. I felt really out of place. And that was like the first time I realized how not normal it was for me because I was literally used to being just the only woman in a room of like 30 men for like the last 7 years. So that was maybe a kind of kick to myself to be like, okay, this isn't very normal. You need to kind of be socializing with women more. And I am really lucky that I do have a little network down here now. I might say there's about 5 of us. They're in the industry and they're all really supportive. We all have similar experiences. So it's really important, I think, to find the ones on the same wavelength and have a kind of group in the same industry as well.
And sometimes it is just scratching that surface, isn't it? Just breaking down that initial barrier. And then as soon as you go, oh, this happened to me, or this is what I
Yeah.
experienced, other people are willing to share. And that's when you go,
Yes.
oh, phew, it's not just me.
Yes, 100%. We meet like every month or so, we'll have a girls' night. And literally at the last one, I think we were saying, yeah, sometimes I do feel like a bit of an imposter because I'm the only girl. And then you kind of realize, oh, everybody feels like that sometimes. So that's another great thing for kind of dealing with the low times is finding a kind of support network that you can be quite honest with.
Thick skin, super determination, but you also have to probably have quite a healthy body and a healthy mind. I just wanted to expand on what you said, to tell us a sort of typical regime for Isla to keep that going, keep it all tip top.
Yeah, so again, I'll probably sound quite boring, but it matters and it's helped me a lot. I think if you want to be good at your job or you want to really put hard work in, you do have to look after yourself physically and mentally. So I do try to get the right sleep every night, 7 to 8 hours minimum, and that's a game changer for me. I really feel I'll decline a lot if I'm having a lot of late nights. Try to make sure I do eat 3 meals a day. Sounds basic again, but it's a huge thing. And exercise too. So for the racing side, go to the gym, but Also just, like I said, like football, trying other activities. I think stuff outside I quite enjoy because things like that don't feel like exercise. But yeah, I think physically I am quite fit and I do try to look after myself that way. And then another thing which I actually started a few months ago, which someone had recommended, I do a little positives list at the end of every day, which my mum, I'm on holiday with my mum, and she was like, "What are you doing in that little journal?" But every night someone said to me to basically try and pick out like 10 positives of the day. And sometimes it can be as simple as I got up on my alarm, or I had a really nice lunch, or the dog walk was really good, or something like that. And yeah, speaking of the dogs, I have two little lovely dogs, and they're definitely a huge part of my regime or whatever. I'll walk them before work. I actually see them at lunch too, and then we'll go out for an evening walk. So dogs are great for kind of getting you out the house as well.
Do you ever feel fully relaxed?
I think definitely working in F1, it's really hard to switch off because there's always so much going on, and because you're quite interested in it and competitive, I do struggle to switch off. That's why, for example, this week and next week, having a forced shutdown and we're literally not allowed to send emails. I know when I go back, I'm picking up where I left off. So you're not going back to like 100 emails.
You haven't
So
got
I think,
FOMO for everything you've missed.
yeah, you don't at all. And you know, nobody's going to phone you. It's great. You can literally, all my friends said they've shut the laptop, shut the work phones, and that's it. So I think in those instances, I can switch off, and I'm getting better at. People always say the kind of saying like when you go through the security gates, that's when you should be switching off and not thinking about it.
Easier said than done, isn't it? Easier
Yeah.
said than done. I understand your mum's with you on holiday, which must be lovely to have your family around you. And I'm just wondering how often you get back home to
Yeah.
Lewis and what that means to you to get home.
So I don't get home as much as I'd like. It's quite a trek. I think it's an 11-hour drive and a 2.5-hour ferry or two
You should love
flights.
the driving.
I know, I know. Dogs don't like the driving that I like. But yeah, it means a lot for me going home. And to be honest, that's quite a good time where I will switch off. If I go home now, I have like allocated time to see family and friends, and then I have time that's just for me, where I'll go to my favorite beaches or I'll go hiking or something so that you can switch off. I think even little things like your accent or just the kind of lingo or anything like that, it means a lot to me to try and keep as much of that as possible. And I know I've lost some of it. So it is important for me to try and get home as much as
Well,
possible.
you've got a lovely burr. I've been to your part of the world. I can imagine you want to go back there often. I've cycled over the Cleishan
Oh, have you? Yeah.
very
That's a
slowly,
hill. Yeah.
very slowly. My son was way ahead of me, and I only
Yeah.
saw his bottom going up the hill as I was doing it. We cycled out to Hebrides. It was just stunning, beautiful part of the world. A typical day for you in your job. We see it from the outside when we're watching the Channel 4 and the racing. We go, wow, it looks so
Yeah.
glamorous. And there's all these celebrities and the grid girls and, the pit lane. And wow, just imagine being there. But just tell us, what happens during your typical day and what it feels like to be among that.
So, as you can imagine, it can be quite varied, but in general, a typical day, to kind of summarize what I do, everything that you see on the cars on a race weekend with Lewis and George driving them, everything's been tested at the factory before it goes on the car. That's just to make sure that it's legal, because we've got to follow regulations, make sure it's safe, and make sure it's functioning as we've designed it to, make sure we get the maximum performance out of everything. And that's part of my job in the dyno department. So, for example, testing the gearboxes, a typical day could be me going in and it could be resolving an issue they've seen at the track on a gearbox or an engine, or it could be with a brand new gearbox and just making sure that we're happy for that to then get put in the car. It is pretty cool. We get to hear Formula One engines screaming away, which is quite cool, and that doesn't get boring.
It's okay. You can go, ooh, it's really cool.
I know. It's very cool. Yeah, it's like I can't tell you everything, but it's really cool.
And when you say Lewis and George, just like flippantly throw away, we obviously know who you're talking about, Lewis Hamilton, and I've forgotten George's surname
George
that's how
Russell.
the nice guys.
Yeah, so I briefly met Lewis when they came round the departments, and also met George when I worked at Williams, and again briefly at the factory, but they're both really, really lovely.
Have you had the sort of opportunity to travel a lot with the job?
So not in my current role, but I actually recently, I'm in the same department, but about 3 weeks ago got a new job, and that might come with an opportunity to travel eventually. So To be confirmed,
Congratulations.
but yeah, when I get there, hopefully there'll be opportunity. Thank you to
Oh,
do a
no,
bit of
well,
traveling.
many congratulations. You're coming across extreme humility and you've done so much. When do you sit back? I mean, do you sit back, or does maybe none of us do ever sit back and go, okay, I've done quite well so far. I suppose you talked about that imposter syndrome. What is the goal? What does Isla do next?
Starting with the bit about like, do you ever sit back? I think it takes certain moments. I feel like Formula One's a little bit of a bubble, and you're surrounded by brilliantly clever people and people top of their game, top of like mechanical engineering or aerodynamic design. And you kind of then don't feel so special because you're surrounded by so many special people and the likes of Lewis and George, and you're surrounded by brilliant people. So sometimes you kind of just get stuck in the bubble and you don't realize how special it is that you're part of that. But there's been a few moments where I do kind of have a bit of a shock and think, oh my God, I work here. Like I was at Goodwood recently and kind of went to speak to all the people there because we had some cars running there. And I couldn't believe the amount of people just crowding and trying to just get a look at the car and just trying to hear the engine fire up or something. And that was one of the moments where I thought, oh my God, I'm so lucky that I can see this every single day. Or when you see people taking pictures of the sign outside the factory, which is quite a frequent thing.
That's true petrol hedonism.
Yeah, there's a lot of Formula One fans, it turns out. And they're all hardcore fans. But I think for future, the job I got this year, it was something I applied for I didn't think I was going to get, and I got. So that's kind of thrown a bit of a curveball where I think I can really see like me in maybe in future traveling, want to kind of learn and get the grounding in that role that I need.
And in terms of out with the job, the driving, ultimately, the main love, the first love to get back on the track?
I would love to get back on the track, and it's forever in my mind. I think at least a few times a week, I think, oh, but that's the real dream, and I would love to do that. Again, last year was tough. I didn't really get what I was hoping. And then this year, I've had a few rounds in some Formula Ford stuff and some karting, and I actually bought my own go-kart in June, which is a big step for me, so that will get me out more. But I think I've taken, for the first time in the last few years, I've kind of taken a little bit of a step back and I'm trying to kind of come up with a game plan, if you know what I mean. So although there's something inside me that's like, come on, I need to be throwing everything out, I'm kind of making like a proper game plan, and then I'm going to go for it again and see what happens, try and get funding. My dream would be to do more single-seater stuff and maybe do some historic stuff. Like they do a historic kind of F1 race at Monaco and things like that. I would love to kind of be someone who does historic stuff. And yeah, just see where I end up.
I love the fact that you're not the type of person to take no for an answer. And I can only hope that if you keep knocking on that door, it's going to open.
Thank you. You just need one person. Everybody says that. You need one person who will back you, or one brand or business. So I'm going to keep knocking.
Absolutely. And it's been a joy speaking to you, Isla, and we wish you all the best. And we'll watch your journey with huge interest. And I'll learn the names of the Formula One drivers as well. Yeah. Don't worry.
Thank
but
you
I know
so
yours.
much.
That's all that matters.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed today's blether and it has provided some inspiration for your own well-being. One small step can make a big impact. Find something that works for you. To read our latest stories and news, download our resources and tools, or connect with Farmstrong Scotland, visit our website, allthews.farmstrongscotland.org.uk, or follow us on social media.